What's up, y'all? So welcome to Caffeine and Conspiracies. Got my Celsius, maybe a little sponsor me. You guys haven't tried Celsius? It's pretty good, I think. Not a lot of things in here that you could argue are good or bad. Well, I mean, some good stuff. There's vitamins, specific vitamins and minerals. I don't know. I'm not here to sell a product, but man, it's pretty good. Check it out. Alright, guys and girls. Alright. Got my handy dandy note card. I want to talk about a couple things. There's been a couple things that have happened recently that haven't got much attention because the media, the mainstream media, is so focused on this hand, you're not seeing this hand move. And I think this, again, it comes back to the premise that I think that there's this massive chess game going on that is not only levels to the game, but then other components to the game, and it's just wild. So not three things, but just a couple things. So when President Trump became president, he signed a bill, and I can't reference the actual bill itself because I don't have it in front of me, but it's a bill in regards to seizing all assets and freezing all assets of people that have found to be either directly involved or complicit to sex trafficking. That's big. And from what I remember, it did not get a lot of attention. I could be wrong, but as far as I remember, it did not get barely any attention at all. And that's a big deal. No other president had made it a mission of theirs to stamp out sex trafficking. And I don't know if you know this, but whether you're political on this side of the aisle, that side, it doesn't matter. Sex trafficking is $1 trillion industry worldwide. What is it, about 800,000, I think the number is, 800,000 people, children and adults go missing in the United States alone every year, on average. Worldwide, I think it's 8 million. 2 million children worldwide are in a sexual bondage, like sex trafficked specifically, and then you have another few million that are, originally trafficked for labor, etc. So that's a pretty big deal. And also we look at some things that, if you look at other presidents and how they talk, I'm gonna switch gears here. Other presidents have talked about alien life and wanting to get information on that. And I talked about this recently too. Apparently you have G17, which is the presidential platform of top secret access, G17. I think that's the right term. Someone can correct me, it's all good, feel free to. And then you have like 12 to 15 levels above that. So there are things that presidents aren't allowed to have access to. You have to go through a congressional process to get information. So you have a lot of presidents that wanted information about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that. Recently, if you didn't notice, a couple days ago, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, a video finally came out. But this is a couple years ago too. A couple years ago, I noticed, and other people noticed, a lot of people noticed, that there was a massive amount of documentation that was pushed out to the public, and then it was ripped down immediately. And it was disclosing alien technology, like different people investigating certain things, the military. It was a massive disclosure, and then it was gone. And if you find that, let me know. If you watch this video and you have it, feel free to link it or message me directly. It's pretty interesting. And so, yeah, if you guys watch that video, it's a little bit to it. I can still be skeptical. I think it's healthy to be skeptical. But it's very interesting that that's going on. It hasn't got much attention. And then also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the Federal Reserve was absorbed by the Treasury. It's a big deal. So going off of the Reserve conspiracy, the Federal Reserve has printed money every day on, every day on the day for 100 years without regulation. They're not regulated by the people, we the people. They're not regulated by a federal entity. They're a private enterprise, private corporation, private entity. And we look at who owns it. If you know, you know. And so just recently, like a month and a half ago, President Trump signed a bill absorbing the Federal Reserve into the Treasury. That's a big deal, y'all. It's a big deal. And you know how much attention it got on the news? That much. Wonder why. So, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that if 75% of our entire debt as a country is to the Federal Reserve because they've loaned us money every time they print it and loan it to the people, we the people, they charge interest on it. So there's speculation about 75% of it being false money. It's just loan, it's just interest built by the Federal Reserve itself, not China. So, in theory, I'm speculating on this. We'll find out if it's true or not. If the Federal Reserve is a corrupt enterprise and 75% of our entire debt is actually to the Federal Reserve because they print it and loan it to people, and it was just absorbed by the Treasury, then we could venture to say maybe 75% of the entire debt as a country will be wiped out. I don't know, I'm speculating. But it's pretty interesting if you think about it. I hope so. That'd be kind of cool. That means the value of our dollar is gonna perceived value of our dollar, because it's really just paper, right? Perceived value of our dollar, it will increase. If you didn't know, well, obviously I'm sure a lot of people know this, but oil, the cost per barrel is negative. Oh my god, dude, that's crazy. The Rockefellers left the oil industry after 100 plus years. That's what I read. I mean, you can fact check it. You can go check it out if you want. But that's a big deal, y'all. That's a big deal. Big deal. Going back to the Federal Reserve establishment, I had the names in front of me. There were 3 people at the time that opposed, they're very wealthy, that opposed the Federal Reserve establishment in the United States. And they were on the Titanic. So the unsinkable ship veered off course, small degree, just enough to hit a massive iceberg in the middle of the ocean, sank, and the people that opposed the Federal Reserve for the United States went with it. And just so happens the people that were pro, we talk about these other families, these power families, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, Morgan, they weren't on board. They missed the boat. Something for you to consider looking up. Check it out. There's speculation in regards to Tesla. So I mentioned this in my previous video, I believe, that Nikola Tesla gave his materials to, I think, Otis was his name, and those were in a safe, I believe. I could be a little off on the details on this, but they ended up in the hands of no other than the uncle of Donald J. Trump. It's pretty interesting. So not only, we have the aim is to destroy sex trafficking in the world, like a worldwide mission. Other countries are linking arms, and you can see it. Other countries have posted quite a bit more on this than the United States, because obviously the mainstream media is not in we know whose favor. So the theory is that all of these countries are working together to stamp out sex trafficking and pedophilia, and then you have, in some regards, satanic rituals. So, it's disgusting stuff. I've looked at, I've listened to, I've watched, I've read, oh my gosh, and there just seems to be no coincidence here. It just seems there's too much, man, there's too much, and we're seeing some things. Again, this is kind of based off the Q movement too, but again, I'm a healthy skeptic, right? So I look at the stuff, cross-reference it, read my own stuff, and I try to find if there's a bias undertone in the material, and usually there is. So I remove the bias if I can, which almost always I can, and look at the facts, and then cross-reference those with my own understanding of other materials. And you dig through history and mentionings of this and that. It's just very interesting, y'all. Very interesting. So, I have my beard, let it grow. So something to consider is if we're exposing, and I believe in Jesus. Let me preface this. So in biblical text and what we see, and you can look at other people that are, it's a different subject to kind of get into. I believe there are dark forces. I believe there are fallen angels that walk amongst us. I do believe there are angels that guard us. That quantum physics would even say one is not only possible but probably probable because of the existence of other species in our world, and you have other dimensions that science has come to grips with expressing and explaining. So it's very, I think it's not only scientifically proven to be not far-fetched, but I've actually seen, felt, and heard things that were not human. And I know most of us watching have also. And the only people to say you're crazy are the people that trust, guess who? Big government, that trust in the mainstream media, that trust modern science that consistently has been proven wrong. We've been taught the wrong information. Alternative, teachings look more real than what we're taught in school. I think we're taught to be dependent on the system, to not think for ourselves, and to not learn how to expand our own awareness and grow as human beings. So just to point out, I think what's very interesting is the exposure of alien technology, which we've seen recently. If you've been, a conspiracist for a long time, you're probably really excited about this. I've been into the New World Order conspiracy for like 15 years, and there's been one military figure after another talking about this openly. And it gets a little bit of attention, and then the mainstream media, guess what? Suppresses it. Or someone gets, shot. Or they fall off a bridge or whatever. So I think it's interesting if we look at right now, Federal Reserve, boom. Sex trafficking is aiming to be stamped out right now. Oil, boom. Everyone wants alternative energy, and Tesla did it years ago. That's been suppressed for a long time. Long time. And we're seeing a lot of shifts. And some of them are pretty dramatic. Some of them are more subtle. So we'll see what happens. I think we're going to see a massive technological boom. Stuff that, I believe, on purpose, through Operation Mockingbird, the CIA's involvement in film, television, and the media. I think that for a long time we've been conditioned to think that this thing right here is so far away from us. It's science fiction. I mentioned this earlier in my other video, I think. But I think that we're going to see some massive things. It's gonna be like they say, in a great awakening, a massive shift in consciousness and in awareness to where we are. And I think it's very interesting. I think that, again, we have gifts that God has given us, and our salvation is through Christ. And I think that we have to figure out as a society if all of these things really are true. One, I believe the truth should be told, no matter how hard it is, no matter how tough it is, any falsehood that's been pushed, any lie. I think you have your truth, I have my truth, I get that. But then you have the truth. You have God, the truth, the light, the way, right? Jesus. But I think that you have the truth in, no matter if someone has faith or not, religion or not, the truth, what actually was said, what actually was done. And I think we're going to see a massive shift in a lot of different industries. It's going to be exciting. So, dang it. So let's switch gears a little bit. So Bill Gates. So I think you have the New World Order, and then you have this other opposition, this good opposition, I believe, what it looks like so far. And Bill Gates doesn't want to vaccinate his kids. He never vaccinated them. I mentioned this, he's getting sued by other countries right now. Nations are suing him for malpractice. He doesn't have a degree. He has I saw this actually, an honorary degree from some university in China. What, guys? Oh, Jesus. What? And he had trouble defending himself from when it surfaced that he had been to Jeffrey Epstein's island, I think it was 17 times after Jeffrey Epstein was charged. Before, so you can't play like you didn't know. He was charged and released on a massive bond that he put up. I think it was over $1 million. And then it surfaced that Mr. Gates had been on the Lolita Express, I think it was 17 times. So one, why should we trust him? He doesn't have a degree, he doesn't have a medical background, people are suing him because of vaccination BS, and he won't even vaccinate his own kids. And two, he went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. He has two. Jeffrey Epstein had two islands. And, why would we trust that? Where's the trust in that, Lastly, and there's a lot more that probably can be said, is he has a plan to not the whole chip thing. I've talked about that before. The trying to get 7 billion people to get vaccinated. What the fudge? Really? The people that don't understand the Constitution or understand your own rights and unalienable rights as a human being on this planet, God-given. I have a God-given right to me, my own. And people still don't try. People still don't get it. Like, there are people, small percentage of people that are like, yeah, I'll get a vaccine. Come on, like, it's just a vaccine. Like, no trust, zero trust in that. But he's wanting to block out the sun. I thought that was a joke for a second, but no, it's actually here. It's called, let me see, stratospheric controlled perturbation experiment. I'm not sure if I said that right. Perturbation. If you look it up, let me know if I said it right. They're calling it, well, abbreviated SCOPEX. SCOPEX. They want to lift up these, planes and other flying vehicles to travel through the clouds and sparse out. I think it's probably a good use of words, vocabulary right there. Sparse out deposits of different chemicals, and they haven't even decided what they want to use for chemicals, but they're proposing this as an opportunity to to block out the sun, and the goal is to decrease the temperature of the earth. Yeah, you heard that. So for you all, I know I love seeing the sun, I love seeing blue, and the counter on this is there's argument that if we did this, if we allowed this to happen, people at chemtrails for years, man, decades, freaking ridiculous. But if we allow this to happen, we might never see a blue sky again. That's what the scientists just said. I'm telling you, go watch it. Go type in why Bill Gates is funding solar geoengineering research. Is it really? And then you have other scientists that have actually said that what we're seeing as a whole planet happens all the time. Percentages of degree shifts. So you have like this mass hysteria, tiny percentage of people that are like freaking out because the world's going to end in 10 years. Interesting. I don't know. I pray that people wake up, because I'm not even an expert. I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but what I've seen thus far, what I've read, there's so much that's being, I believe, misinterpreted and sold and packaged and sold a certain way on purpose to create mass hysteria. So we allow some crazy ass dude to fly up in the clouds and put chemicals in the air so we can't see the sun for years, or for a year. I don't know. I didn't see the actual how long they want to do it for, but that's not the point. The point is we might never have blue skies again, and we don't even know what chemicals they're going to want to put in there. Like, there's speculation of a variety of different chemicals, but no, no. So moving forward, yeah. So just I think just to kind of even put a cap on this piece is, and then I got a couple plugs I'm going to make. It's I think somewhere along the lines we have to ask ourselves, Bill Gates Sr. Let's see, Bill Gates Sr. What was he involved with? I was fed this thing that Bill Gates Jr. was a self-made man. And people say that Donald Trump wasn't a self-made man because he took $1 million from his dad. And he failed a couple times and came back. And if you've ever been even close to being an entrepreneur, or even been an entrepreneur, to know failure in business and then come back and become a billionaire, come on. Like, that's part of the game as a business individual. Failure is part of it. So, but I was fed a lie that Bill Gates Jr., I didn't even know he was a junior, was apparently a self-made man. Nope, he comes from a senior. And all these guys, when we talk about the idea of the New World Order and the connection of the cabal, the deep state, it doesn't look so theorist anymore. It looks like just like a plain old conspiracy. It looks very truthful, actually. And so I think there's been a plan for a long time. Let's mask the problem. And it's always about this, and this is what I think is very dangerous to do. Let's mask the problem. Here's the problem. Let's just mask it. Instead of getting to the root. If the root is dismantling corrupt businesses, that we can substitute and people don't lose jobs. Is, you know, there's a way to help transition like a technological boom and give people the education they need to be able to transition from one type of industry to another. Why should that be shunned? See, I think that there are people that think we should just get rid of oil, right? Get rid of this, get rid of that. Okay, where are those people gonna go? But if you get rid of this and you create this at the same time, you have an opportunity, in some ways, to be able to transition people into a different field. So, story after story of people coming up with alternative energy and being shut down. And not just shut down in a nice way. Shut down like they go missing. I mean, there's a guy decades ago that came up with a way to run his vehicle on the water, with the water. I think both. You know, alternative sources of energy have been around for a long time, but the argument against it was, can it be mass developed? I think it could be. I think there's proof. Even Tesla, man. Come on, man. Come on. So I think it's been suppressed for a long time to make us dependent on this or that. And I think Bill Gates Jr. is no different. It's about, I mean, let's kind of relate this to the fitness world. I believe in functional fitness, and I've siphoned through many lies by the fitness community and lies by the nutrition community in those two industries, and how they tell you got to get this, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to get here, and you got to do this. There's so much garbage. You know, it's not about, recently, over the last few years, it's become more about, here's the problem, let's get to the solution. What's the problem? You eat too much, you don't eat enough, you can't time it, you know, you want to cut X amount of body fat, you want to build this, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to learn functionality, you don't want to get hurt, you want to protect your body, you want to be able to develop flexibility and range of motion, all when maintaining and developing and growing as an athlete. To mask that, for a long time it's been protein, eat your protein, man, body weight plus more. So if you weigh like, for me, I weigh about 190. You know, at one point I was consuming 220 grams of protein a day. Wild, because that's what the industry pushed us. Not just me, thousands, hundreds of thousands of athletes have been doing this for years. And we're also realizing that the quality of our meat, and I don't even eat meat anymore. I haven't had meat but like 3 times in a year and 4 months. So yeah, there's that. If you didn't know, boom. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but I'm gonna tell you I've changed my diet quite a bit, and I'm more athletic now than I've ever been in my life, even with like 12 injuries. So we're told eat more. Over the last few years, there's been developments and I think unshieldings, if that's a word, probably not, of different methodologies, like one being rest more, 2 being yoga, physical therapy, flexibility, developing flexibility. For me, that's been a big part, a variety of those. And then working out less and more structured, more strength specific, balance, coordination. My point is, I think that same principle has been applied in a lot of different industries, and I think this whole like geoengineering thing, have we not? It comes back to the films. We're taught that these films are just films, right? These movies are just a movie. I think their movies are designed for telling the truth and desensitizing us to that truth in hopes, in a big way, that we think it's far-fetched. We think it's a lie. We think it'll never happen. It's not here. But then you look at some of the things, and it's just like, it's not, it can't be coincidental, you know? So I want to encourage you guys, let's see. Yeah. I just want to encourage you guys to dig into some of this stuff. Dig into it. There's a lot more going on. A lot more than we're being told. And I think this is the biggest chess game ever. Like, we are seeing moving parts. If you, it's very hard to like see it when you're here, right? I mentioned this kind of earlier. It's really hard sometimes to see the picture when you're here, right? But if you step back, like, whoa, right? I can see that. Whoa. and then you keep moving back. All of a sudden, the dots that people are like, you're just forcing these things, you know, to your agenda, what you think. There might be some bias involved, for sure. I mean, we're all human beings. But at the same time, the dots just seem to connect. And we gotta be ready to receive that, you know? Ready our hearts, our minds, our souls, our spirit, the spirit within us. I think it's very important to not be overwhelmed by some of this. There's some really dark, in my opinion, and what I've seen, there's some really dark, terrible, horrible things that have happened for decades. Like you what you think is bad, I think if you take what you think, any of us individually think is bad, terrible, times that by 100, stuff that would give you nightmares, stuff that you, like for me, I'm just disgusted at some of the lies that we've been told, like in my body. And so I think we have to come back to this position where if you have faith, which I hope you do, breathe. Slow everything down, right? Pray. Pray that God continues to have favor on his people, and that's a promise. That's a promise. He promises it. You know, we have plans, we've been given plans over our lives, grace over our lives for prosperity, for love, for grace, for mercy, for forgiveness, for plans to prosper as people. And I think we got to be aware of these and continue to believe, not in hopes, but in belief, just belief. I think there's a difference between hoping for something and wishing it and wanting it, rather than just believing it's already happened and he already has called us to have these things over our lives, you know. So thank you, God, for bringing us all together, for bringing us here in this moment right now to see these historical events unfold. Please continue to have grace over our paths. Let us accept the love that you're willing to shed for us, your Son. Let us continue to give that love to ourselves, to our friends, our family. Even in this age with social media where everything's so, like, it's almost like 80-20, it seems like, or 50-50, these massive exaggerations of extreme emotions. Let us be able to extend love to our neighbor, whether they accept it or not. Let us be able to consider the love received to ourselves, if that makes sense. Love that we allow, you know, in. Let's just open that door, and let us all come together to seek justice for the truth without malice in our hearts, right? Thank you, God, so much. In your Son's name we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a phenomenal day. Please make sure you subscribe, like, share if you want to share. I'm trying to keep this kind of on the low for now, because obviously you guys know I'm an actor, so I gotta be careful what I say. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. God bless you.